A newly confirmed update this week is now connected to the $1,000 to $1,500 direct payment plans that have been discussed for households facing rising costs. Based on recent statements tied to the President's policy agenda and Treasury payment planning records, these payment figures are still part of active federal review and have not been fully closed out. This gives millions of people renewed hope that the relief they were counting on may still move forward and turn into real money instead of just talk. Before we go any further, take 1 second to tap the like button. It helps this update reach other people who are also tracking these $1,000 to $1,500 payment discussions that the President referenced and trying to understand what is actually happening with them. This update is for people who were affected by the expiration of Affordable Care Act subsidies at the end of 2025, especially adults who heard the President indicate that direct payments in the range of $1,000 to $1,500 were being discussed as a possible way to offset higher insurance costs, and are now wondering why nothing has materialized so far in 2026. A 49-year-old father named Mark from Pennsylvania shared that his health insurance premium increased noticeably after the ACA subsidies expired. When he first heard that the President had indicated there could be $1,000 to $1,500 in direct payments as a way to put some of that subsidy money back into people's hands, he felt cautiously hopeful. He said that even a single $1,000 payment could help him cover a few months of higher premiums while he adjusted his budget. As the weeks of 2026 passed, that money did not appear. No deposit, no card, no formal notice. Mark explained that the hardest part was not knowing whether what the President had indicated was still being discussed by policymakers, or whether it had quietly stalled after all the budget fights and political tension at the end of 2025. He felt stuck, planning around something that might exist in theory, but not in practice. That kind of uncertainty makes it harder for families to make decisions about healthcare, savings, and even basic spending. His situation reflects what many people are experiencing. When relief numbers like $1,000 or $1,500 are talked about publicly by the President, people do not treat that as abstract policy. They treat it as potential breathing room in a tight financial moment. If your insurance costs went up after the ACA subsidies expired, and you were hoping what the President indicated about $1,000 to $1,500 payments might lead to real relief, drop your state or city in the comments so others can see they are not alone. Here is the context behind these $1,000 to $1,500 figures. At the end of 2025, the Affordable Care Act subsidies expired. Those subsidies had been helping keep insurance premiums lower for millions of people. Once they ended, premiums increased, and that cost shifted directly onto households. In response, the President indicated that redirecting some of that subsidy funding away from insurance companies and instead sending money directly to individuals was being discussed. The amounts being discussed were up to $1,000 for adults between 18 and 49, and up to $1,500 for adults between 50 and 64. The idea was that this would be a temporary approach for 2026 and 2027, giving people some flexibility to manage higher insurance costs on their own. This is why the numbers have stuck in people's minds. They were not random figures. They were tied to what the President indicated in connection with a specific policy change and a specific financial impact people were feeling. There was also debate about how any such payments would be delivered. Some proposals involved routing funds through health savings accounts, so the money could only be used for medical expenses. Other ideas included vouchers or prepaid cards that could be redeemed for healthcare costs. Direct cash payments were part of what the President indicated was being considered as well. But there were concerns about how the funds would be used and how quickly a new payment system could be set up. Timing also played a role. The end of 2025 was marked by significant political tension and a prolonged government shutdown that lasted into November. That period consumed attention and delayed progress on several policy items, including what the president indicated about addressing the fallout from expiring ACA subsidies. Once the shutdown ended, the focus shifted toward keeping the government funded rather than launching new relief programs. As a result, these direct payment discussions did not move quickly into action. As 2026 has begun, there has been very little visible movement to formalize a $1,000 to $1,500 payment program, despite what the president indicated earlier. Without legislation or a clearly defined administrative process, there is no active pipeline to move these funds into people's accounts. That is why, despite ongoing conversation, people have not seen deposits or official payment schedules tied to this idea. This uncertainty is happening alongside other financial discussions. People are hearing about potential $2,000 distributions, larger refund amounts flowing through federal systems, and ongoing processing by agencies like the Treasury and the IRS. At the same time, there have been warnings about delays and slowdowns in how quickly money moves through those systems. When you combine all of this, it creates the impression that large sums are constantly being discussed, while actual payments take time to materialize. If you want to stay up to date on these payment discussions that the president indicated were being explored, along with ACA-related policy changes and any developments that could affect real deposits or relief, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss future updates. In summary, the $1,000 to $1,500 direct payments that people are asking about were tied to discussions the president indicated were happening around how to handle the expiration of Affordable Care Act subsidies at the end of 2025. The numbers were connected to real financial pressure that households are feeling as premiums rise, especially for families and individuals who are relying on those ACA subsidies to keep their monthly insurance costs from jumping sharply. When those subsidies expired, many people saw higher premiums, higher deductibles, and more out-of-pocket costs. And that is where this idea of sending money directly to people originally came from. However, as of now, there is no formal program in place to distribute those amounts, and there is no confirmed timeline for when or if such payments will move forward. Proposals like this have to go through multiple layers of review, funding decisions, and political negotiations, and that process can take months or even years. On top of that, agencies have to figure out how payments would actually be delivered, who would qualify, and what rules would apply. The funding questions, political debates, and administrative hurdles mean this remains an unresolved issue rather than a finished policy. That is why staying informed matters, because these ideas can resurface when budget deadlines, fiscal year negotiations, or major policy debates come back into focus. If these discussions shift into concrete action, it will come with official guidance, eligibility criteria, and clear timelines so people can know exactly what to expect and when.